Hi, my name is Greg Madison, and this is The Living Process. It's been a very busy autumn, so there has been a gap between episodes, but I'm really happy to be back, and there's some great guests coming up, including the guest for this episode, Alexander Lyadov. Alexander is a longtime focuser and has done a lot of training. You may have come across him at conferences or summer schools or workshops. But he's originally from the business world. And in this episode, we talk a lot about his work as a business therapist and how he works primarily one-to-one with founders of companies. And he talks about the importance of the founder's vision and how if that is clear, then the rest of the company can coalesce around that. Very interesting episode, describing aspects of corporate life, business life that are very unfamiliar to me. So I really enjoyed listening to Alexander, and I hope you will too. Here is the next episode of The Living Process with Alexander Lyadov. Hello, welcome back to The Living Process. And I'm very happy that today my guest is Alexander Lyadov.
Hello, Greg. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to see you. It's been a while. Um, and I know that we're talking, you're in Kyiv today, which is part of the world that's often in the news. So I don't know if that will come up in our conversation, but let's wait and see. But I like to start just by asking how you kind of found out about focusing. I kind of got into this whole world of whatever you want to call it, therapeutics or personal growth or whatever.
I think that the first was the book, of course, focusing by Eugene Gendlin. That was the introduction, and I was quite intrigued. And I started looking for any training available, and I think it was you in Tallinn,
Hmm.
in Estonia. I think it was you, the
Yep.
first person I met who was training, focusing, and I was not disappointed. I should say, you, you were my first teacher, and then I decided to learn more, and I actually studied with Nada Lu. She was kind enough to teach me as well. And it was a long process. It was many, many great people afterwards, many trainings, many seminars, many online, offline. So it was a long journey, I think, for several years,
Mhm.
uh, quite intensive. And actually, I couldn't explain myself why I was interested because I was from the business world.
Yeah.
And somehow I remember very vividly I went to Holland for training focusing for children.
Hmm.
And the majority of people were social workers, psychologists, I think psychotherapists, and I was kind of a strange beast there.
Hmm.
And people were asking me why you're here. And I honestly told them, I don't know. I'm just fascinated by focusing, and therefore I'm here to learn.
So when you came across the book, that was just by accident or someone recommended it?
It was it was like snowball effect, when or rather hyperlink effect when somebody mentioned in some other book
Okay.
Eugene's name,
Hmm.
and I went and just checked because at the time I was looking for many fields, psychology, philosophy, creativity, physics. I mean, military stuff, and I was interested in some kind of novel perspective. And the one of Eugen was quite paradoxical, quite new, quite. And I think he was one of the few people who tried to establish connection between the uh, science and the religion, the science and the spiritual world, and to do it in a kind of organic way without, trying hard to do that. And I was fascinated by focusing first, and then I was fascinated by his philosophy. I mean, the philosophy of implicit.
Hmm. So I mean, you sound like a somewhat atypical business person. Is that true?
Well, it's not me to judge, but I'm definitely a weird case because uh, even my career is quite eclectic because I'm trained chemist, but then happened to be an advertising business where I spent a decade. Then I moved to wealth management business. Then I started my own private equity and venture capital fund. Then I moved to my practice, which I called business therapy.
Hmm.
So I'm somehow intersection of very diverse interests and perspectives, and focusing was one of the very important one.
Hmm. Uh, I'm curious if now, after all of those different transitions and the length of time you've been in the focusing world, as well as I'm sure other worlds, um, when you look back now, do you have any more sense of what it was you were looking for, or what was motivating your development, your learning, your search?
I think I was looking for myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think is it your book about home?
Yeah.
Is it yeah?
Yeah.
It's
And yeah.
some somehow I think we might. You were writing about the same topic, but from a different angle. The whole culture, our culture, is quite alienating us from ourselves, and it's a long journey, some kind of hero's journey in Campbell's terms,
Hmm.
that we have to go far away in order to find ourselves. And I think I was looking for tools and for methods and for approaches of how to do it, but it was not the conscious. It was, I think, subconscious mm, intent and drive. And therefore, I first used the available tools. I mean, the science, scientific methods, then some even business tools in terms of like trying through business to develop my personality as well. But then I felt like it's not enough. They have to be absolutely different approach. So I tried to find such approaches. And focusing was very promising from the start of reading his book, John Lim's book. I felt like there is something different about that approach, because it was on one hand quite practical, on the other hand it was quite mysterious in terms of common knowledge, I would say,
Hmm.
because we are not used to using those terms that he even felt sense.
Hmm.
It's quite a weird thing to say to normal person, especially in business world.
Yes. Yeah. I was just about to say, in my profession, there aren't very many normal people. So we're quite we're quite used to the term felt sense, but everybody, I think, uses it in a slightly different way. Um, I'm still curious because I know that you have exposed yourself to a lot of different kinds of practices. And I'm curious, what is it about the focusing practice that makes it central in some ways to you?
I think focusing taught me of importance of thinking of body not as the organ, not as the pure, flesh,
Yeah.
but rather something bigger. And Gentleman somehow
Hmm.
destroyed this distinction between mind and body. He showed that we are not the mind, we are not just the body, we are whole organism, and there is some truth in that organism which is beyond our comprehension, but which can be uncovered if we pay attention. But not just any attention, but special kind of attention. And that was quite strange and intriguing thought. And then he showed this approach, which is also quite interesting because the importance of pausing, for example, when silence gives space to something to emerge from nothing, essentially. So as something emerges from nothing. This is um, very counterintuitive to me, and I think to anybody. And also that you can talk to your body in a way like with a wild beast, which you don't know, but which you
Hmm.
even don't want to domesticate, but rather to become friends. And it's possible to make this connection, to build this trust, and to discover something which is impossible to get any other way. So
Hmm.
this insight that your body, your whole something inside you can talk to you back.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's really, really strange. But when you first feel it, you cannot deny after that. It's
Hmm.
like a revelation.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, what I'm taking from what you're saying is the fundamental shift that comes when you begin to treat the body as a subject rather than an object, and as a subject that has its own kind of living in some way, that it will actually respond to questions or directions you might take it, and that somehow it can generate some that kind of response out of what seems like nothing if you give it time and the kind of attention that we know from focusing is useful.
Yeah, exactly. There is, in this approach, there is the conviction, I think, that there is the mystery. You are the mystery and you don't know yourself,
Hmm.
and you are much greater than any conceptual thinking of yourself
Yeah.
and any experience of yourself and anyone else thinking about yourself.
Hmm.
So, so you are the mystery, but the kind of mystery which can be unfolded in front of your eyes. And
Yeah.
this is really interesting
Yeah.
and promising.
Yeah. The mystery and also in some sense the answer.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm curious about the way you integrated other approaches because sometimes it's not easy, I think, to integrate some approaches into focusing, even though they can really enhance each other. There can be something different in the emphasis
Hmm.
or the assumptions or something.
Hmm. I think that focusing is somehow became the either the soil for other things or the air, the kind of substrates, kind of environment in which other methods and other practices kind of enriched. So for me, focusing is not just another technique. It became a kind of way of thinking and feeling, and it taught me the sensitivity toward the person I'm talking to. So it's not the hat which I'm now can put on, but rather a mode which I'm existing within focusing framework, or it's even, I don't like how it sounds, not the framework, the kind of the way of existing, especially when you're talking to another person, but also to myself. And within that mode of kind of modus operandi, you can kind of be more effective, be more sensitive, be more truthful, be more insightful in whatever you do. It's much easier for me to be in that mode when I'm doing my business therapy, because it's for example 1 or 2 hours or even 10-hour session, but it's limited. It's much more difficult in real life when you are sometimes with your spouse or with your friends, and you are not sleeping well and not sometimes irritated, etc. It's much more difficult. But at least professionally, it's very, for me, natural to kind of switch on this mode. So after the focus, and I'm always I'm convinced, and I know about the person I'm talking to, that there is much more than whatever he says, whatever he does, and often what he says and what he does is not the whole truth. And also I have a trust towards that process in him, or in her, and also between us in that process, so that if I feel, because focusing trained me to notice those important kind of moments when you feel like there is the significance not yet explained, not that named even. And I even sometimes tell my client, let's stop here, let's wait, feel that, which is not typical for any kind of business interaction, but it's certainly often there is something more, and it pop-ups and we discover something very interesting.
When you're in that focusing mode, if you want to call it that, it's more almost like a natural way of being for you. It's not something that you're doing to the other person or to yourself. It's not something as discrete as a technique. And I'm wondering sort of what kind of challenges or benefits are you finding from integrating focusing into your business therapy?
Well, first is it's not just focusing, it's also when I was listening how Eugene himself behaved during the practice sessions. And I vividly remember one of them when it was clear that nobody can predict where it will turn, this session. And it was clear that they are kind of in the dead end, it seems. And I was even inside of me like, pity of Gentleman what he will do. Is he going to fail in front of the whole world? And he was so calm. He was so quiet, so confident. He was just given space. He was posing, and actually, and the process unfolded, and the person was very thankful. But was because there was some insights out of her dream. It was dream seminar,
Mhm.
and somebody asked gently about that, and he said something like he's absolutely not afraid of mistakes because if they're dealt right way, they will uncover even more. He's not afraid of silence. He's not afraid of dead ends. He's totally fearless, but not because he is fearless, but because he is trusting that something will come
Mhm.
if we are kind of open and kind and sensitive enough towards that together with that person.
Mhm.
And I somehow was inspired by that attitude, and I incorporated or try to incorporate it in myself. So in my sessions, sometimes first I put aside all my uh, skills, all my methods, and I have many, all my tools, and I see and I try really hard to see just the person
Mhm.
as a human being, as the quite unique human being with in front of me. And when I feel like we are not moving anywhere, or for example, there is such a mass of undesirable effects. I call it like negative symptoms around the business, around his or her life, etc. And I feel like I don't understand what's the core reason. Focusing helped me to relax and keep being open towards what may come
Mhm.
instead of trying to, because of my anxiety, to come up with quite a quick fix solution and try to persuade the client that this is his or her problem and let's do it because here's the plan, here's the typical decision solution, etc. And therefore, this confidence, this trust allows for some unique solution to come.
Mhm.
First problem to be identified and solution later to come, not from me, but rather from the our mutual process. It somehow gives birth to the solution.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why I call my practice business therapy and not the coaching, not the
Mhm.
business consultants or
Mhm.
training or whatever, because I couldn't find the right word
Yeah.
for what I'm doing. And it's not just the focusing, but also the integration of all other tools which are secondary, and the person in his particular junction, the situation is the primary, and also not just the person as he seemed to present himself, but rather the person, the process within him, which desperately tried to manifest himself.
Mhm.
And I tried to create the environment together with the person so that something in him would manifest.
As I listen to you, I can imagine all of that. And to clarify, I think what you were saying was you don't know of anyone else in the business world that's doing this. It's not typical coaching or consulting, it's something slightly different. My question is because you're not offering a solution and because you're pausing and going slow and you're trying to help give birth to what really would carry forward the person or what really is trying to communicates something from the body. I'm assuming people come to you not knowing focusing.
Yeah, definitely. Nobody knows.
Yeah, okay. Um, so if they're coming not knowing focusing, I'm thinking that these can be quite unusual things. You trust that their body has a process, but they may not trust that. You trust that going slower can actually be more effective, but they may not trust that. How do you get over that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, first, I don't make it explicit focusing session
Yeah.
as we usually get used to in training focusing.
Mhm, mhm,
Uh, I rather use the explicit focusing approach quite rarely
mhm. Yeah, I get
at
that.
certain moments. But in order to use it, I first have to build trust in my approach in general, in my understanding, and I build this trust by first allowing creating special situation where special environment where the person feels heard, sometimes even for the first time, because we are starting with all the negative symptoms, and since I have quite experience in business world. I understand the typical symptoms, but I also quite sensitive to hear what his specific kind of edges are, nuances are.
Mhm,
And I'm also not just make an inventory of those symptoms, but in a kind of focusing way, trying to make sure that I understand what he meant. Focusing taught me that there is all this kind of explicit something and there is something implicit. So I'm looking for implicit.
mhm,
And sometimes I feel like, and I see that the person in front of me feels hurt, and feels that he expressed something which concerns him very deeply,
mhm,
because I'm not in a hurry. I'm really trying to understand what does it mean for him when he's saying so and so. The words may be the same, but his meaning, implicit meaning, is absolutely different from the previous client.
mhm,
And this builds trust. He feels like I'm really interested to listen to him. And sometimes, even on that stage, people uncover much more than they tell to their business partners, to their wives or husbands, etc., even at that stage. But then we go further because we are trying to understand the future of them, usually, um, both negative and the positive future. And the negative future, in order to go there, it's quite hellish to extrapolate what will happen if everything continues as it is. And to go there, it has to be trust to me uh,
mhm,
to verbalize all that. And then we go to usually to the positive, the desirable future. And this is even more scary in some sense because people they don't know their own desires. They think they know, but they never explicitly express them the same way. I mean, they may express them formally, like I want the company of this size, I want cash out at certain stage, I want this and that material objects, etc., or move to another country, or but why do they want it, and do they really want it?
mhm,
And just asking that is not enough. They have to be by that time feel like I'm really interested in hearing and not just curious.
mhm,
It's not my curiosity. It's really by helping them to understand. So somehow help them understand themselves
mhm,
much deeper,
mhm,
what they want from their life. And this is quite scary because it's not really about the business at that stage.
Hmm.
It's really we are touching existential questions.
Yeah.
And very often people are really afraid to ask themselves those questions then when they're alone and nobody really asking them in their environment. So when I'm asking that questions, and by that time I'm creating an environment where these questions can be answered. And then I help them kind of support what this implicit meaning, which is, hiding and showing and hiding in them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is focusing, in a sense, this is focusing modality. When there are clarity with their desire, kind of true desire, their uh, inner meaning is somehow explicitly in front of them. That's what I really want. They can rearrange their current situation. It's easy to strategize from that point. It's easy to make unpleasant decisions at that moment. And what is most important, it's much easier to communicate your vision as the founder, as the entrepreneur, towards your business partners, towards investors, and towards your team. Because very often one of the problems in business is that people spend huge amount of money on all those trainings, strategic sessions, etc., etc., and they are kind of rituals which don't go anywhere because ultimately the owner, the founder of the business, is not didn't express his own vision properly to himself or herself. And therefore, if you are not true to yourself, it's really difficult for others to guess what do you really want, because what is formal, explicit on those PowerPoint slides, it doesn't reflect the reality, and therefore there is some kind of mess in the company, and people try to guess the vision, and he or she founder tries to communicate something, but it's not really what he wants. And there is some confusion. And when there is the confusion and there is the group of people, it means operating costs are high, revenues are not what they could be, and the market capitalization of the company is not the greatest for this particular business model.
Some of the things you're saying, I'm thinking that sounds very much like psychotherapy. And I would imagine at times it would be hard to distinguish the two, but maybe at other times it does look different. So would you work just one to one or would you work with teams as well?
I worked in the past with groups of top managers, conducting what I call transformational sessions. But at the end of last maybe year, 2 years, I focused mostly on founders' individual work or with several founders, owners of the company. And rarely I work with top management team because I came to conclusion that the leverage point is the mind and spirit of founder. It's like a kingdom. Everything depends on the king or
Hmm.
the queen. And you can do whatever dances, whatever interventions on the level of top management, but they're really operating within the laws which are implicitly or explicitly created by the founder.
Hmm.
And therefore, they cannot change anything. It's really marginal changes, but I see how big can be effect if some assumptions of founder are changed.
Hmm.
Then the company can, like a big yacht or the ship, it can really move fast. once he kind of think, oh, huh, so I really should be doing that instead of that. We should be doing in that direction instead of that. We should be targeting those clients instead of those clients. We should be trying to raise capital instead of working on with our own limited funds, etc., or opposite. It really depends.
Hmm.
Sometimes I teach founders how to work with their teams and how to create the transformation, because essentially what I'm doing is helping the transformation within the person
Yeah.
and as a result
Hmm.
in the business, and not to to achieve the consensus when everything is smiling, everybody's smiling, but to really get the vision so that people feel like heard, feel like they're participating in that. There is some inspiration, some value in that vision, and somehow they feel their potential is expressed in that vision.
I like the general format you're presenting, but I'm also trying to imagine if you go from the founder to working with the different levels in the group to some extent, or coaching almost the founder to do that. Um, the first thing I'm thinking is that out in the real world, you also have to deal with the personalities of all the different people involved and how complex that can get to even get people to agree that is actually the worst that could happen, and but without getting fixated on that. And that is exactly the best thing that could happen for all of us without people necessarily splitting off and thinking, no, I think this is the best thing, or I think this is the best thing.
Well, that's why the most important is the understanding and the vision of the founder.
Yeah.
If the, if it's not clear, then everything else doesn't make sense and will not help.
Hmm.
Even if somebody would have a genius ideas, it will not help,
Yeah.
or marginally. But once his or her vision is clear,
Hmm.
then it can be enriched
Hmm.
by the visions or contributions of others.
Hmm.
Because and in order to be enriched, they have to be heard.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's up to the founder not just to have this vision, but then to put it aside and be open to listen to
Yeah.
everybody, and
Exactly.
not just everybody, because it's also important to choose from your people not because of their rank, but rather because of their attitude. Because I'm dealing with situation where the transformation is needed. It's not just shall we do it or shall we not? No, the situation is critical. We either don't grow as much as we could, or we're in a quite a scary situation. And therefore, something has to be done. And we tried several things and we kind of failed. And what shall we do? That kind of situation. So there is
Yeah.
some dramatic element in that. Uh, and therefore, and therefore, it's so important for first the individual work with the founder or with a group of founders, if there are several of them, for them to be synchronized.
Hmm. Yeah. Let me say some of that back to you because it sounds like a very interesting model. And it sounds like you have a kind of a structure to the sessions that you have with the founder, and that through that, the founder ends up understanding him or herself much better than they ever have before. They don't just have general ideas about what they want. They have a much clearer sense of what they want, what they don't want, and what it is they really want about what they want. Somehow it goes to a deeper place for them that's also personal as well as business. But that founder then also has to acquire some degree of sophistication because you say it, but it may not be so easy to be able to put aside one's vision and stop fighting for it enough that you can actually hear these people that have been trying to give you good ideas, but you haven't been open to until now, and to then somehow together incorporate what could work together here and how can we find a way forward that's fruitful.
Yeah, there were some cases where the situation became so desperate that there was almost like a revolt between the group of managers and the CEO and the founder. And at certain case, I remember I have to deal with, I don't know, 15 people who were quite angry, and the CEO as well. And the problem there was exactly what we discussed before, to show another kind of way of dealing with people concerns when they are really hurt.
Okay.
But not in the empathetic way, like to feel good, but rather to extract truth from their concerns, why it's so important to them and why it's so important for organization. And in that way, I think I showed them how, and also to CEO and to everyone who was there, I showed how the person can be hurt and why it's important and why the kind of some insight can be extracted from the kind of obvious concerns. So behind obvious concerns, there was not obvious insights. And they happened to be clear in front of everybody just because I was not in a hurry and I was asking a question and even stopped other people who tried to kind of interrupt and say, oh, no, we understand that. Oh, we heard that so many times. And I said, no, 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 just a second. Let's listen. Tell us more. Why do you think that way? Why you think it's important? Why? And then people were like shocked that you can communicate with the person in other modality kind of way. Interested, calm, waiting for something to come up. So even on that stage, that was the first, I don't know, 20 minutes, and it's the first stage of my process. Even on that stage, people implicitly learned how to deal with each other in a different way. Like Gentlin showed me how not to be, concerned when you are in dead end. The same way here, people saw that I'm not in a hurry. I'm not trying to put my own thoughts. I'm really full attention to that person who I'm dealing that, although there are 15 others who are waiting to interrupt. You see? So that was interesting case. But I think it's more important for people to kind of reunite to each other and to feel like they're together rather than they're separated by the departments and by their, because often one of the typical problem in organization is what I call local optimization, when my left arm and the right arm, they optimize their own being and not caring about the whole body. Oh, my mind is don't think I should exercise because what is body is just a taxi for my magnificent brain, which is stupid idea. And the same way in an organization, they kind of tend, it's like an entropy. They tend to lose their cohesion. They're doomed to lose their cohesion, and therefore the whole organization, and especially if the founder, but at least key people, their key mission is to keep this organism synchronized and united. And the whole forces of market, the whole forces of culture, they are not just, as we started our talk, they are not just separating us from our desires. They're naturally separating the whole organization in parts, in body parts. There is the notion of corporate body. they call it. And in some sense, it's interesting in relation to focusing. This corporate body tends to kind of disintegrate all the time. It's like pulling forces, and therefore that's one of the problems because once my left hand doesn't know or even opposes and start to fight with the right hand, it's my expenses, operating expenses, is sky roof. All the opportunities are missed.
Hmm.
And people are struggling, they lose meaning, they hate each other, there is some intrigues, backstabbing, etc. There is the mundane life and there is the sacred life, and we tend to kind of dive deep into the mundane life and lose connection to the source, and we kind of disintegrate spiritually and physically, uh, and therefore people from the ancient time, they knew that from time to time, at least from time to time, you have to reconnect it and to revitalize yourself, reignite yourself. The same has to happen with the corporate body as well.
Okay, let me say just a little bit of that back to you if I can, because I'm getting a sense now of some of the other things that you integrate into sort of the knowledge that informs how you work with the founders and the teams. Um, what I want to say back is it sounds to me as though this corporate body that you're describing, it often disintegrates into different parts and different parts that potentially compete with one another or don't even listen to one another, don't even know what the other parts are up to exactly. And yet there's this assumption that all of these different parts somehow magically are still working together in the same direction. But that isn't what happens. What happens is they end up taking each different directions of their own potentially, and then there's a crisis, and they show up at your door. And that part of your work is it's quite sounds quite systemic and also with the founder quite deeply personal and even vulnerable, but that your work is intended to help the different parts of the body begin to relate to each other and begin to become more cohesive, as you said, so that in some sense there's one implying for the body. The whole corporate body begins to imply the same direction. And not just in some general way, but also that that direction can be operationalized into quite specific action steps.
Yeah, it's a good summary. I while you were describing, I thought that the modern people, they tend to think of life as the linear process, as the time scale, and ancient people, they thought of their life as the kind of circular process, in the sense that there is the center, the sacred center, and there is the periphery, which is mundane life. And there is no movement in terms of linear, there is just movement from the center and sometimes to the center in order to reconnect, re-energize, and then again back to normal life, normal mundane life. And this coming back to the center is, in a sense, is like a rebirth, because that's the all the rites of initiation and rites of passage, etc. They come from. And in company life, in corporate body life, there is the definitely we can think of it as the linear process, but we can also think of it from the absolutely different angle when there was definitely a moment of Big Bang, the moment of giving birth, when the founder was had a revelation and then struggle and then make something out of nothing, like we started in focusing, right? And this is the founding moment.
Hmm.
And then the company grows. Then something happens. It starts to disintegrate and lose track. Those conflicts they multiply inside of it. The business model is not so much relevant to the environment, which is changing, etc., etc. So there have to be a moment in life of corporate body when it has to come back to the source, to the moment of
Hmm.
kind of refounding, rebirthing.
Hmm.
And I think this is what exactly what I'm helping them to do.
Hmm.
In a sense, I'm catalyzing that process. I'm the catalyst. I'm
Hmm.
not the maker.
Yeah.
They're the makers, they're the founders, they're the team, and I'm just helping them to reconnect to the source which created them at the beginning,
Yeah.
but somehow to recreate themselves. And I think that that's exactly what gives any one person or the corporate body the new energy to live the next phase. So if they are not sure or if they are afraid to change status quo, then nothing will help. Because essentially the company, why it's so relevant, this metaphor of the coming back to the founding moments, because the organization is not the there is no value in organization as it is. We tend to think it is value as it is, but in reality, not. Even the financial models, they usually um, don't really appreciate what the current assets of the company. It's not the real value of the company. The real value of the company is the discounted cash flows from the future. What can it can create in the future? What is now created is it's insignificant in a sense. But what it can create, that's why company may lose money, but can have a huge market capitalization because the potential is so obvious, it's so clear, it's so cool, it's so vast. And the same, and that's why what the company is now is relevant not as it is, but as the something which allows this future to materialize or not, or kind of limits it. And therefore, it really comes to the realization what we really want in the future, what is real our potential as the corporate body, as the team. If it's really exciting and huge, then and we really want to realize it, then it's easy to make any kind of even revolutionary changes in what we are now. But if it's unclear what to fight for,
Hmm.
uh, where to put efforts, where uh, to to struggle, what for, then it's really difficult to make even the smallest change. You
Hmm.
see?
That they can get through the process you're describing, such a clear vision that everyone understands it and agrees to it and can keep their aim on it. That to me is really, that's inspiring that that can be the case, that a group of people, any group of people, in fact, can do that if things are clear enough.
Uh, and and since the whole environment is changing, and since the corporate body is really living,
Yeah.
somebody is new people are coming, some people are leaving, and
Yeah.
products change, etc. Therefore, it's a dynamic process, and therefore, it's not really about the particular strategy which was developed in this particular time,
Mhm.
but it's really about the new understanding on of ourselves as the team. I
Mhm.
mean them. I'm
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
there, and our kind of regained unity
Hmm.
and our reestablished clarity about the value we can create and the meaning for everybody.
Mhm.
why it's worth pursuing. This is the most important because the strategy in half a year have to be adapted.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, the team may change, but this impulse, it's almost like, the football. The ball itself is nothing. The important part is when the foot of the player kicks it. Once it gives it kick, the ball flies.
Mhm.
And up until the moment when the forces of gravity puts it down and it slows down and stops. But then it should be another kick until there is the goal.
Mhm.
And therefore, it's important not to wait until it stops or even lost towards the enemy team, but to keep, kicking this ball from time to time.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily just the clarity of the of some external vision for the future. It's more so the rejuvenation of the team itself, that somehow it begins to own its organic, if you could say that, organic identity, in that it gets to own that it's living in some way.
Exactly, exactly. They are kind of getting back their spirit to live.
I'm just curious what, maybe in addition to this work that you're doing, if there's anything else that you're passionate about or interested in or engaged in at the moment.
Uh, this kind of work on with with business and with the founders, it's somehow I feel like it's a fractal because I see a lot of similarities between working with a particular person like founder, particular group as the corporate body, and with the big group like society or even the whole humankind. I see so many parallels, like
Mhm.
almost like fractal, and therefore I'm really interested to understand how the conflict between in societies happened, what's the core reasons for them to happen, how the fabric of the society breaks, how those internal conflicts try to kind of tear it apart,
Mhm.
and on the contrary, how it's possible to reunite people who are in internal struggle. But I'm interested in implication for the whole humankind. I know it sounds a bit weird, but I can't help but seeing those parallels
Yeah.
because you mentioned our region, but we can see what's happening in UK. We can see what's happening in US, in Europe, in other countries. So we can see how the tension is increasing, how the violence becomes norm, how people are more and more polarized, and it seems like not many people are thinking about a long-term kind of solution for that, and also about the deep reason for, but rather kind of focusing more on differences and political, stances. And although everyone feels right, but in reality, we end up in the quite wrong place globally.
And I think a lot of people that work with individuals or small groups and can see that something healing or important can happen at that level, I think it's quite natural to begin to think, well, if it works with one person or a family or a team or a company, could it work at a larger scale? And I'm wondering if you have had any ideas about how that might happen. I mean, I certainly agree with the interest in could it be upscaled and somehow at least help us think more, even if it doesn't help us practically. But I'm wondering if you have any more thoughts about that.
I kind of rediscovering the value of rituals,
Hmm.
the value of old rituals and new rituals, and because sometimes they are even not properly understood by the people who are practicing them, they still work in terms of kind of harmonizing society, and therefore it's quite a risky move during last, I don't know, 50, 70 years when different societies were kind of feeling pride even in destroying many rituals which were essentially kind of holding the society together. So one thing is definitely rediscovering the value of rituals and on all levels, on individuals level and on group level and even on the nation level. Second thing, the more I think about that, the more I believe that it's really um, one of the key issue is the not understanding oneself, feeling the lack, and trying to satisfy this lack, the existential lack of oneself with the external means. So people don't understand their true desires. They are alienated, is isolated from their desires. Somehow the culture and from school to university to general culture doesn't support that, but rather make things worse, especially now. And anything that can help people to kind of come back to themselves and to rediscover their um, fullness, their sufficiency, their
Hmm.
kind of relation to the something greater than themselves, no matter how they call it. Uh, this is, I think, a really interesting and important issue to at least think about, but rather practice and make some steps towards it on any level.
Yeah, I can hear immediately the parallel to the work that you do with companies. It's interesting. And when I hear you say what you've just said, I also think about kind of the crisis in your part of the world. You're right, it certainly isn't just in your part of the world, but it's maybe in a slightly more extreme form at the moment. And just wondering if you have any from your work with groups and your understanding of ritual and of the importance of coming back to oneself, if you have any ideas of what would be helpful to kind of live through what people are living through in your part of the world at the moment.
I think that what's happening here is a kind of model what may happen in future with many, many, many others. Because violence is its nature is very contagious.
Hmm.
And what's happening here, it's not the local phenomena, it's a global phenomena which happen to be expressed locally. And and therefore it's a matter of time when it may capture many, many other people and nations. And therefore it's really crucial to kind of understand what's happening, why it's happening, and what can be done. What's happening here is the present, but in a sense is the future, possible future. It's not destined, but it's kind of a revelation of what might happen. It's easy to dismiss it, to think of it as local phenomena, but the more I think and the more I analyze, I see it's absolutely not. It's there are so many similarities and so many signals in different parts of the globe with the internal tensions. They are growing, 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 and they are on the verge of bursting into something ugly. Although it started here, hopefully it may end here and not be the kind of fire which captured the whole the whole, I don't know, territory. I'm even afraid to name which territory, because it might be much greater than we expect, because modern world, it's interconnected world.
Yeah.
And we've seen it with COVID, but violence is much more contagious with COVID than COVID. And therefore, I think people kind of come to realization that something has to change, something has to be done. We better find kind of solution which will be replicated everywhere.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's a very thought-provoking perspective. It makes me think that what's happening in Ukraine at the moment, or to Ukraine at the moment, we need to understand it as a symptom of something that could happen anywhere, and to take it seriously so that it doesn't become the worst possible future for all of us.
Interesting to think whether we will wake up
Yeah.
and find the kind of reinvent the tools
Mhm.
which will save everybody, or we will naturally collapse like many civilizations collapsed in the past. It's really terrifying and at the same time interesting time.
Very interesting time. And as I hear your take on it, I'm thinking as long as there is life, there is hope.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that there was already several junctions in the history of humankind. And this is the moment exactly like that.
Mhm. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you very much, Greg, for your questions and for your attention. Another time, I appreciate how focusing people can listen in absolutely different way.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I get the same thing. Okay, good luck with your work and take care of yourself.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye.